Okay, so are you ready to unlock like your inner sage?
Okay.
Because today's deep dive is going to take us on this quest for living wisely,
Okay.
and we're going to be exploring this really cool Wikiversity resource, and it's like a DIY course on self-improvement and understanding well everything.
Yeah. It's really intriguing how they structured it.
Right.
It's not just these lofty ideas, but they give you practical steps.
Right,
It's
yeah.
almost like a roadmap
Yeah.
with milestones to hit.
A roadmap to wisdom. I love that.
Yeah.
And they kick things off with personal responsibility,
Mhm.
which makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Like you got to get your own house in order before we go changing the world.
exactly. And they even bring up the four agreements,
Oh, yeah.
which is really a helpful framework, I think, for better relationships.
Hmm.
And they start with, be impeccable with your word.
Ooh.
Have you ever, wished you could take back something that you said?
Oh, all the time.
This agreement encourages us to speak with intention, knowing that our words have power.
Yeah, word vomit is not wise.
Yes.
But it's not just about what we say right.
Right.
They also talk about cultivating virtues, courage, empathy, like stuff that makes us better humans.
Yes, and what I think is interesting is they also stress literacy
Right.
and numeracy.
Okay.
It's like they're saying that in order to navigate life wisely, you need a really solid foundation in how things actually work.
Yeah.
You can't really make sound judgments if we don't understand the underlying principles.
It's like trying to build a house and not knowing which end of the hammer to hold.
Exactly.
Recipe for disaster. Which brings us to the next stage of this wisdom journey.
Okay.
Clear thinking.
Extremely crucial in this day and age
Right, that's
with information overload.
Yeah.
I mean, we are constantly bombarded with messages every single day,
right.
and not all of them are accurate or helpful.
Right.
And so that's where our critical thinking skills really come in.
Mm-hmm.
Logic, questioning assumptions, even using the Socratic method.
Yeah, they actually encourage us to question our own beliefs.
Yes,
Which, let's face it, can be very uncomfortable.
it can be.
Because no one likes to think they're wrong.
Right.
But, this deep dive reminds us that blind faith can lead to some not-so-wise choices.
It really can.
Right.
And so it's about being open to new information, challenging our own biases,
Right.
and being willing to adjust our views when presented with, compelling evidence.
Yeah.
And they even give us tools to spot logical fallacies,
Oh, fun!
which are those sneaky arguments that sound really convincing on the outside,
Right.
but then when you really look at them closely, they kind of fall apart.
Yeah, because let's be real, there's a lot of that going around these days.
There is a lot of that going on.
It's like everybody's trying to sell us something.
Right.
An idea, a product,
Mhm.
a version of reality that benefits them.
Yes.
So how do we cut through the noise and get to the truth of the matter?
And that's where I think understanding what is comes in.
Okay.
And it's not just what we believe to be true, but the objective reality of the world around us.
Okay.
So they take this multidisciplinary approach here, and they explore everything from big history,
Yeah.
which gives us this sense of our place in this grand scheme of things.
Right, so zooming out to the Big Bang and then zeroing in on us here on Earth.
Exactly.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It makes you feel both insignificant and strangely connected
Yes.
at the same time.
At the same time.
It's great.
And then they bring it down to Earth, literally with biology.
Okay.
Understanding DNA evolution, how our bodies work.
Yeah.
It's all connected to this idea of living wisely.
Makes sense because we can't make informed choices about our health, our environment without, a basic understanding of biology.
Exactly.
But it's not all about the physical world, is it? They
Yeah.
also dive into the realm of emotions,
Yes, they do.
which honestly I think is something we often overlook.
We do.
Yeah.
And that's where emotional competency comes in.
Okay.
It's understanding and managing our own emotions,
Mm.
but it's also being able to read and respond appropriately to the emotions of others.
Yes, because we humans are emotional creatures.
Yes, we are.
And yet, how many of us were actually taught how to handle those emotions effectively?
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
It's like they're saying, hey, it's okay to feel things.
Yeah.
Joy, sadness, anger. But let's learn how to navigate those feelings constructively
Right.
without letting them control us.
Right.
And they don't shy away from the tough stuff either.
Oh, you mean like the destructive emotions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those can really throw a wrench in our quest for wisdom
They can.
if we're not careful.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, they recommend a book called Destructive Emotions, which explores how anger, hatred,
Mm-hmm.
fear,
Mm-hmm.
all of those can really cloud our judgment
Yeah,
and lead to not so wise decisions.
for sure.
It's about recognizing those emotions in ourselves, understanding their root causes,
Okay.
and then developing healthy coping mechanisms.
So instead of, making a scene because somebody cut us off in traffic,
Exactly.
we take a breath,
Take a breath.
maybe listen to some calming music,
Yes.
and remind ourselves that, everybody makes mistakes.
Exactly. It's about responding to life's curveballs with wisdom and compassion,
Yes.
rather than reacting impulsively.
I love that.
It's about mastering our inner world
Yeah.
so that we can show up as our best selves in the outer world.
Which, let's face it, is a lifelong journey
It is a lifelong journey.
in and of itself, but okay. So we've taken responsibility for ourselves. We're thinking clearly.
Right.
We're getting a handle on these emotions.
Mhm.
Where does this path to living wisely lead us next?
Well, once we've kind of got a handle on what is,
Yeah.
this resource invites us to explore what can be,
Ooh.
which is all about tapping into our creativity,
Okay.
envisioning alternative possibilities for ourselves and the world around us.
Ooh, now we're talking. I love it when a deep dive takes us into the realm of imagination.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, don't just accept the world as it is. Imagine how it could be better.
Okay.
And they don't just leave us hanging with these vague notions of be more creative.
Right.
They actually give us concrete tools and exercises to kind of flex those creative muscles.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. What kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, one they recommend is called A Whack on the Side of the Head.
I love that book.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And it's all about breaking free from those rigid thinking patterns
Right.
that can sometimes stifle creativity.
Yeah, it's like a playful kick in the pants to remind us that there are different ways of seeing things.
Exactly.
Right.
And sometimes those aha moments come when we least expect it.
Yeah.
But it's not just about brainstorming a million crazy ideas, right?
Right.
This resource also guides us toward what ought to be.
Okay, because we can dream up all sorts of futures.
We can.
But it takes wisdom to figure out which ones are actually worth striving for.
Yes.
So how do we tell the difference?
Well, that's where ethics and moral reasoning really come into play.
Okay.
And, they point to principles like the Golden Rule.
Oh, the classic.
The classic,
Yeah.
treat others how we want to be treated. It seems so simple.
Right.
But if we actually lived by that principle,
Mm-hmm.
it could radically change things.
It really could.
Right.
And it's about recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of every single person.
Okay.
And they actually take it a step further
Okay.
by encouraging us to engage with, the concept of human rights.
Okay, so now we're talking real-world impact here.
Yes.
It's not just thinking about a better world, but it's understanding the fundamental rights that every human being deserves.
Yes.
And figuring out how we can protect and advance those rights.
Exactly. And this also ties into civic responsibility.
Okay.
The idea that we're not just individuals running around.
We are part of a larger community,
Right.
a global society.
So it's about showing up not just for ourselves,
Yes.
but for each other.
For each other, exactly. And that can look like so many different things.
Right.
It could be engaging in thoughtful dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
respecting different perspectives, even just listening with an open mind.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in shaping a better future.
I love that it's not just about these grand gestures,
Right.
but it's also about those everyday actions,
Yeah.
that when they're multiplied across, millions of people,
Yeah.
it creates this ripple effect.
It does.
Right.
Exactly. But,
Right.
they do acknowledge that sometimes those everyday actions require a little bit of courage.
Oh, absolutely.
So they have a whole section on do good,
Oh.
which is about, really tapping into that inner strength
Yeah.
to act on those ethical principles that we were just talking about, even when it's really difficult.
Right. It's about standing up for what you believe in, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient.
Yes. And they highlight some really incredible individuals.
Oh, yeah.
People who have embodied this courageous spirit.
Yeah.
People who risk their own well-being to fight for justice and equality.
It's a good reminder that living wisely isn't just about accumulating all this knowledge. It's about putting that knowledge into action.
Exactly. And sometimes that action involves embracing the tough stuff,
Okay.
what they call suboptimal life experiences.
Right. So they're saying that we shouldn't shy away from discomfort?
Yeah.
That seems counterintuitive.
It does, because nobody enjoys suffering, right? But they suggest that even in those challenging moments, even in those difficult experiences, there is wisdom to be gained.
Okay.
It's about reflecting on those experiences and extracting those valuable lessons.
So instead of letting those tough times break us,
Yeah.
we use them as fuel for growth.
Yes, exactly.
Lovely.
It's about cultivating resilience, empathy,
Okay.
a deeper understanding of ourselves and the human condition.
Turning those lemons into lemonade.
Exactly.
I like it. It seems like this whole resource is about finding balance
It is.
between action and reflection, between engaging with the world and nurturing our inner selves.
You're right. And speaking of nurturing our inner selves, that's where their emphasis on be good comes in.
Okay, so we've covered doing good. What does it mean to be good in the context of this living wisely thing? Is it about being kind to ourselves? Because let's be honest, we can be our own worst critics sometimes.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about cultivating self-compassion. Recognizing that we're all works in progress,
Right.
perfectly imperfect in our own ways. And they also dive into practices like meditation and mindfulness,
Okay.
ways to kind of quiet that mental chatter and
Yeah.
find moments of peace
Right.
amidst all the chaos.
Yeah, because if we're constantly, bombarded with information and running around trying to do good in the world,
Yeah.
it's easy to lose sight of our own well-being.
It is. It's so easy to get caught up
Yeah.
in all of that. And it's
Yeah.
like they're reminding us to just hit the pause button every now and then,
Right.
reconnect with ourselves, appreciate the simple beauty of just being. They talk about cultivating a sense of gratitude,
Okay.
finding joy in those little things.
Because when we feel grounded and at peace, it's easier to make those wise choices, right?
Exactly. It's like that saying,
Yeah.
you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. You got to fill yourself up first.
You got to fill yourself up first, and then you can give to others.
Exactly.
And even when things get tough, when we're faced with those inevitable challenges and disappointments,
Which, they happen.
they do happen.
Right.
They do. And I think this resource really encourages us to lead with compassion in those moments,
Yeah.
both for ourselves and for the people around us.
Because when we approach life with an open heart, even those difficult situations can become opportunities for growth
Yes.
and connection. This whole living wisely thing, it's actually pretty inspiring when you think about it.
It really is.
It's like they've given us this amazing toolkit,
They have.
but now it's up to us to use it.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it, right?
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
We each get to take these principles, these practices,
Yeah.
and weave them into the tapestry of our own unique lives.
I love that it's about, finding what works for us, experimenting, adapting, and never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
And speaking of learning, this resource has a pretty extensive reading list.
It does.
For those who really want to dive deeper into all of this.
Yes, for those who want to keep going on that journey.
Yes, because it really is a journey.
It is.
Right, it's ongoing.
There's no final destination.
Exactly. The pursuit of wisdom, it never really ends, does it? It doesn't. So what will you explore, dear listener? What resonated with you most deeply? What questions does this spark for your own journey of self-discovery and growth? Keep those questions close, and remember, the journey itself is the reward. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into living wisely. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep embracing the adventure of a life well lived.